when we were in exile in Babylon, it was a difficult and discouraging time, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about that. Do you know my name? Ezekiel. Very good. That's right. Well, God first spoke to me in a very unusual way. I had a vision of God's glory. There were strange winged creatures, bright fire and lightning, and moving wheels. And then I heard God's voice. He said, "Son of man, I'm sending you to the Israelites." I thought, me? Ezekiel? Who am I to be a prophet? But God's message was clear. I was to be bold and proclaim God's message to the Israelites. God handed me a scroll, and He unrolled it. Did you hear about this?
Yeah. No,
It contained words that were said. God instructed me to eat the scroll. So I did. You know what? It tasted sweet as honey. For 7 years, God sent me messages of judgment. And I had to speak these words of judgment to the Israelites. They had sinned against God. And because of this, our beloved city of Jerusalem was to be destroyed. There was nothing we could do to prevent this judgment. While I was in Babylon, my family experienced a very great loss. My dear wife died. But strangely, God told me not to show my emotions about her death, because God was going to use this tragedy as an illustration of what would happen to the sacred temple in Jerusalem. Like my wife being taken from me, the temple would be taken from Israel, and God wanted His people to carry on and to be strong, just as He wanted me to carry on and be strong in the face of this horrible situation. We weren't the only people who deserved God's judgment, though. God told me also to proclaim that judgment for 6 other nations in that area. But finally, just like the scroll that tasted so sweet, God gave me a message of hope. Thankfully, it's not God's style to practice judgment without hope and the possibility of a good future. God promised to send God's Spirit to Israel and to restore our greatness as a nation, united one day under one king. It was then that God's Spirit brought me to a valley full of dried up bones. And God instructed me to tell them to come to life. I did. And you know that bones reassembled themselves into people. God breathed into them, and they became a huge army of people with tendons and flesh and skin. And the point of that vision was that the dry bones were like Israel, feeling dead and hopeless. But God was going to bring new life into His people Israel, just as He brought new life into those dry bones. God also gave to me a vision of the beautiful new temple that would be built in Jerusalem. God likes math, by the way. I wrote down all the calculations in my book, Ezekiel. I was instructed in our nation's boundaries, which tribes Israel would receive in which areas. It was exciting because we were being promised a special land of our own at a time when we were captives in Babylon, in a foreign city. God was willing to forgive us and bring us back to our land. And He still wanted a relationship with us, even though we as a nation had disobeyed Him. God wanted us to show the world that God is the Lord, and He forgives. And even when he brings us a message of judgment, just like this scroll, there's sweetness in it.